Do you hear me back there? Thumbs up. Okay. Good morning. Thank you for coming out. Appreciate that. And the weather seems to cooperate for us now. So this is the 29th annual Memorial Day ceremony at Black Mountain State Veterans Cemetery. My name is Alan Percal. I'm the chair of the Buncombe County Veterans Council. Today we pay tribute to those who have fallen in service to our country. We are honored to have veterans from all branches of the United States Armed Forces and their families who are here today. I'd like to recognize the Gold Star family members that are in attendance. Could you please stand? Gold Star family members. Okay, I know there's a few here today. Thank you. We want to thank Phil Davenport, Superintendent of Black Mountain State Veterans Cemetery, and the crew at Black Mountain for hosting this ceremony and maintaining this sacred ground. Thank you, Phil. Oh, can we up the volume? Okay. I want to remind you that part of a national moment of remembrance and as a way we can all help put the memorial back into Memorial Day, if you would please pause at 3 p.m. for a moment of silence to remember and honor those who have died in service to our country. As we honor our flag today, please remember the flag does not fly because the wind moves it. It flies with the last breath of each soldier who died protecting it. Freedom is not free. I'd like to invite Larry Fowler, United States Air Force retired Vietnam veteran, 1968-69. Larry.
Good morning, everyone. In the brochure that you have, where it says the prayer, prior to the prayer, you'll notice it says, among the rest who gave their best. So here's the backstory prior to the prayer. We've had a memorial team active probably for the last 25 years. Unfortunately, I'm the next to the last surviving one, but we came across the poem that was so appropriate that, author unknown incidentally, that we've used it at our graveside ceremonies, and here at Black Mountain, we were requested to give out copies of this. It's called Among the Rest. So prior to the prayer, I thought I'd share this because I feel it's probably the most appropriate poem I've ever heard. It goes like this. As they lower me into my grave, let not a tear be shed. I fought to keep my country free, but now, my Lord, I'm going to see, for just my body's dead. As they fold the flag and fire the shots, let no emotion show. Stand firm and brave beside my grave and listen as the bugles blow. Weep not for me as you walk away. Turn not for one last look. As a haunting strain of taps remain, press a kiss upon your holy book. The men will softly turn the soil as I wing away with God. The diggers will refill the pit till signs of death retract from it and replace the torn sod. Oh, but as years go by and memories fade, my stone shall stand erect among the rest who gave their best our freedom to protect. And now we'll have our prayer. Heavenly Father, on this Memorial Day, we pray for those who courageously lay down their lives for the cause of freedom. Bless the families of our departed veterans and fill their homes and lives with the peace that passes all understanding. Through all of this, we ask this in your precious name. Amen. Thank you all.
The presentation of colors today will be by the American Legion Post 317 from Marshall. The national anthem will be sung by Bradley Parker, former Commandant for Asheville Marine Corps League Detachment 1417. And the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Steve Henderson, United States Marine Corps, Vietnam veteran, 1969-1970. Present colors. Could you please stand?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? If you will now join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll have Joanna Weber, Acting Associate Director for Charles George VA. Thank you, Joanna, for taking care of us who have served their country during peacetime and in war. Joanna Weber.
Good morning. Thank you for your participation in this year's Memorial Day ceremony. I appreciate the opportunity to join you, your family members, friends, distinguished guests, local veterans organizations, and other members of the community as we honor those who've made the ultimate sacrifice, defending our country and our way of life. Your attendance today shows that you understand and appreciate why our nation sets aside this day to remember, honor, and salute those fallen service members. Today, we come together in this sacred place, a veterans cemetery, where each headstone represents a story of bravery, sacrifice, and unwavering dedication to the ideals upon which our country was founded. Each name etched in stone here tells the story of a hero who answered the call to serve, who placed love of country above personal safety, and who fought to protect the freedoms that we hold dear. As the representative of the Western North Carolina VA healthcare system, I would like to take a moment to reflect on the extraordinary courage of our namesake, Private First Class Charles George. George was a member of the Eastern Band of Cherokee, and his story exemplifies the highest values of service and sacrifice. We are proud to carry his name on our hospital. On November 30th of 1952, during the Korean War, Private First Class George's platoon was engaged in combat. When an enemy grenade landed among his comrades, he didn't hesitate. He threw himself on the grenade, absorbing the blast with his body to protect his fellow soldiers. His selfless act of heroism saved the lives of those around him, but cost him his own. His selfless act, his bravery, and for that, he was posthumously awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. Private First Class Charles George's sacrifice is a poignant reminder of the extraordinary valor displayed by our service members. His story is not just a tale of heroism, it's a testament to the profound sense of duty and love for his comrades that defines the spirit of our military. Memorial Day is not just a day off of work or of school. It's not just a time for barbecues and gatherings. It is a day of remembrance, a day to honor the fallen, and a day to reflect on the cost of our freedoms. It is a day to acknowledge the void left in the hearts of families and communities who've lost their loved ones in service to their country. As we stand here amidst the graves of those who've given everything, let us remember that their sacrifices were not in vain. Their courage and commitment have paved the way for the peace and security that we enjoy today. Their legacy is a constant reminder of the high price of liberty and the enduring strength of the American spirit. To the families of the fallen who are with us today, we extend our deepest gratitude and sympathy. Your loss is a national loss, a community loss, and we stand with you in grief and also in pride. The memory of your loved ones' valor and dedication will never fade. It is enshrined not only in hallowed grounds like these, but also in the hearts of a grateful country. As we reflect on the sacrifices of our service members, let us also remember our duty to them. We must ensure that their contributions are honored not just with our words, but with our actions. This means supporting our living veterans, providing for their needs, and upholding the principles for which they fought. In closing, let us not only remember the sacrifices of our fallen heroes, but also be inspired by their bravery and dedication. Let us honor them by living our lives with the same commitment to values that they fought to protect: unity, freedom, and justice. As we leave here later today, let us carry with us the legacy of heroes like Private First Class Charles George and all those who've given their lives in service to their country. Let their stories of courage and selflessness remind us of our own responsibility to serve and protect the ideals of our nation. May we strive to support and uplift our veterans, ensure the well-being of their families, and work together to create a future worthy of their sacrifices. Their legacy is our inheritance, and it is up to us to honor it through our actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. We're honored today to have as our keynote speaker Lieutenant Harold Ted Minnick, United States Army, retired. He served in Vietnam 1969 as an artillery battery commander. Ted is very active in the veteran community, serving as an officer of Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 124, the oldest VA VVA chapter in the state of North Carolina, and a proud member of Brothers and Sisters Like These Veteran Writing Group. And most proudly, he has called Black Mountain his home since 1973 with his wife, Joy. I'm honored to introduce a brother-in-arms, Lieutenant Colonel Ted Minnick.
Good morning. Pardon my raspy voice, the weather, the season. I thank every one of you for coming out this morning. I am honored to be here. Before I begin, in honor of our fallen heroes, please pause a moment to reflect on their selflessness and bravery. Their sacrifice will forever be a symbol of our nation's strength. As Alan said, my name is Ted Minnick. I served in the United States Army from 1966 until 2006. I went to Vietnam in 1969 as a field artillery battery commander. After leaving active duty in 73, I served 13 years in the North Carolina National Guard and then 20 years in the U.S. Army Reserve. My time in service was marked with both combat tours, overseas tours, stateside tours. Everyone I served with and knew while in the service, I consider a hero, and a large number are no longer with us. We all had a commitment to this great nation and our fellow service members. In fact, everyone that towed the line raised their right hands and took that oath of service or commission was willing to sacrifice everything, up to and including their lives, to protect this nation and their loved ones. You start with an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, when in fact you are fighting to protect the lives of your battle buddies on your right and your left. I wish that I could say I returned from Vietnam with all my unit members, but I can't. I've lost battle buddies during combat, and I've written letters to surviving family members. It was easy to say that you didn't really want to know the people in your unit because at any point in time they could be gone. But how do you write a letter to a parent or a widow and children and make it sincere and filled with compassion for their loss if you didn't know anything about that individual? How do you describe your best if he was only a name on a roster? I did my best. I am honored to be here today among the heroes of all our conflicts. Memorial Day, originally referred to as Decoration Day, was first established in 1868 after the Civil War. It is now designated as an annual day of remembrance to honor all those who have died in service to the United States during peace and war. There are over 9,200 veterans and spouses resting here on this hallowed ground. Today we pay our respects to them. To all veterans, this day has a special meaning. We remember those we served with, fought with, bled with, and lost. They made the ultimate sacrifice, and we are forever indebted to them for their courage and their willingness to sacrifice their tomorrows for our todays. As most of you are aware, the military has many traditions, one of which is placing coins on headstones. I would like to explain the significance of each coin you might see. A penny placed on the stone means that the visitor has stopped to pay their respects. A nickel signifies that the visitor served with a deceased member at boot camp. A dime signifies that the visitor and the service member served in the same unit. A quarter signifies that the visitor was physically present with the service member when they passed. Sadly, I have placed all these coins on numerous stones at some point in time. On Memorial Day, we reflect and share the experiences of our fallen loved ones. But tomorrow and in the days that follow, we must act. Let's carry their sacrifice with us in our hearts and strive to honor their memory by being good and faithful, hopeful and strong, and committed to building a brighter future for all. Each veteran here today, whether physically present or here in our hearts and minds, at one time made a commitment to sacrifice everything, up to and including his or her life. Today is the day we honor and remember all of them. Someone once said, as long as you say their names, they will never be forgotten. These names from the Black Mountain Swannanoa area are on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C. I either served with them or I have definitely gotten to know their families. Jerry Harris, Wesley Melton, Billy Stewart, Oliver Webb, Wendell Brown, Donald Wright, Coleman Wright, Bruce Elkins, John Hansard, John Morley, Richard Fitz, James Shannon, James Weaver. Listen to the lyrics of a song from the movie We Were Soldiers. It is entitled Mansions of the Lord. To all fallen soldiers, let us sing, where no rockets fly, nor bullets wing. Our broken brothers let us bring to the mansions of the Lord. No more bleeding, no more fight, no prayers pleading through the night. Just divine embraced eternal light in the mansions of the Lord. Where no mothers cry and no children weep, we shall stand through the angels' sleep, while through the ages safely keep the mansions of the Lord. I would now like to quote from a poem that was sent to me by a fellow Vietnam veteran brother called Remembrance. He was getting old and paunchy, and his hair was falling fast. He sat around the Legion telling stories of the past, of a war that he once fought in and the deeds that he had done, and his exploits with his brothers. They were heroes, every one. And though sometimes to his neighbors his tales became a joke, and his buddies listened quietly, for they knew whereof he spoke. But we'll hear his tales no longer, for old Joe has passed away. And the world's a little poorer, for a veteran died today. He won't be mourned by many, just his children and his wife, for he lived an ordinary, very quiet sort of life. He held a job and raised a family, going quietly on his way. And the world won't note his passing, though a veteran died today. The ordinary fellow who in times of war and strife goes off to serve his country and offers up his life. Often the ordinary veteran who offered up his all is paid off with a medal and perhaps a pension, small. Should you find yourself in danger with your enemies at hand, wouldn't you want a veteran who would fight until the end? He was just a common veteran, and his ranks are growing thin. But his presence should remind us we may need his likes again. If we cannot do him honor while he's here to hear the praise, then at least let's give him the homage at the ending of his days. Perhaps just a simple headline in the paper that might say, "Our country is in mourning for a veteran died today." As you leave today, please visit one of the veterans resting here, whether you knew them or not, and thank them for their service and their sacrifice. And especially thank them for being willing to stand up, raise their right hand, take that oath to protect this great nation and all the freedoms we enjoy. Say their names. Thank you for attending this Memorial Day service. God bless you.
Thank you, Ted. We'll have some remembrance readings from the brothers and sisters like these, a veteran writing group that writes to heal the wounds of war. First, we'll have Jim Hernandez, United States Air Force pilot in Vietnam, 1968 to 1969. Victoria Ransom, United States Army, retired nurse. And David Robinson, United States Army Infantry, Vietnam, 1970 to 71.
Good afternoon. Today, if you were driving north on Massachusetts State Road 1A, heading from Hamilton to Beverly, you would pass through an even smaller town called Wenham. You probably would pay little attention to this small residential community as you went along Main Street heading towards your destination. Just a short distance from downtown Wenham is a public park called Pingree Park, and in it is a Little League baseball field. In 1972, the citizens of that community dedicated the field to a native son, who, like tens of thousands of others, made the ultimate sacrifice in military service for his country during the Vietnam War. He was the town's only casualty in that conflict. At the baseball field, sitting at the base of the flagpole, is placed a large stone supporting a plaque which designates it as Cheeseman Field and reads, "Dedicated 1972 in memory of Captain Allen B. Cheeseman, Southeast Asia, 1970. In 1962, Al graduated from Beverly High School in the town next to Wenham, where he was a National Merit Scholarship finalist, placing him in the top 5% of the high school seniors in his state. Al was a member of high school clubs for students who loved to exercise their brains, math, physics projects, slide rules, and chess. Also, he was a manager for the track and cross-country teams. At the end of his junior year, Al was awarded the prestigious Rensselaer Medal, given to recognize superlative academic achievement in math and science. The Merit Scholarship, with a value of $25,000 per year, remember this is $1962, was guaranteed for 4 years for each medalist who was accepted and enrolled at Rensselaer. Overall, a student would be eligible to receive a scholarship valued up to $100,000. And if that wasn't enough achievement, he was also an Eagle Scout. Al's graduation yearbook inscription was, "Knowledge is power." Nearing completion of high school, Al decided to decline the Rensselaer Scholarship and instead to compete for an appointment to the United States Air Force Academy. He was accepted by the Academy into the class of 1966 and began his cadet college career in the summer of 1962. I had also received an appointment that year, and it was during basic cadet training that summer when I met Al for the first time. Having survived those 6 weeks of intense military orientation from the upperclassmen, we both were assigned to our permanent cadet squadron for the next 4 years, the 22nd. During that time, I was fortunate enough to twice have Al as my roommate, and we became good friends. He, the scientific type from Massachusetts, and me, the liberal arts guy from Alabama. Al, the Cheeser, was a highly respected member of the 22nd. My squadron classmates and I remember his calm demeanor, ready smile, and always positive attitude. Al devoted himself to his studies, and his diligence resulted in him being frequently named to the dean's academic list. After daily classes, Al spent most of his afternoons and weekends serving as a manager for the Academy's cross-country and track teams. Al's strong academic performance at the Academy resulted in his selection for a coveted first assignment to attend graduate school. In just 7 months, Al completed a Master of Science degree in Applied Mathematics while attending North Carolina State University. Though academics were always a love and focus for Al, at North Carolina State he happily shifted his focus and attention after he met, fell in love with, and married a very intelligent and lovely young woman named Beverly. Shortly thereafter, they were assigned to Moody Air Force Base, Georgia, where Al began his year-long undergraduate pilot training class, just as I was close to earning my wings in the senior class at the same base. During that reunion, I met his terrific wife, Beverly. A few months later, I was on my way to Vietnam to serve my 1 year of combat duty. Al successfully completed pilot training in April 1968, and following transition training to helicopters in August 1969, he reported for combat duty with the 21st Special Operations Squadron, the Dust Devils, at Nakhon Phanom Royal Thai Air Force Base in Thailand. Al flew missions in the CH-3, affectionately named a Jolly Green because of its size and color, and later was selected to serve as an instructor pilot, indicating the great trust and confidence his supervisors placed in his judgment and skill. During his combat tour, Al's unit participated in the very hazardous, top-secret Operation Prairie Fire missions, inserting and extracting 6-man Special Operations reconnaissance teams into enemy-held territory along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Teams were inserted into small remote landing zones where high operating altitudes and temperatures often push the helicopters to the very limits of their capacity. In addition, most often the reconnaissance teams' extractions were emergency extractions, with teams under fire from North Vietnamese Army forces. During emergency extractions with a reconnaissance team receiving enemy fire, it was often impossible for them to get to a clear area for pickup. This required the air crews to use the CH-3's jungle penetrator to extract the reconnaissance teams, increasing the time they were exposed to enemy fire. This procedure required the helicopter to hover just above the trees and lower a cable with a seat attached to the end, upon which team members sat as they were hoisted up into the aircraft. Due to the incredible danger and aviator skill associated with these missions, the pilots and crew members of the 21st Special Operations Squadron were highly decorated for their heroism in this very intense and difficult combat environment. The Distinguished Flying Cross is awarded to any persons who distinguish themselves by single acts of heroism or extraordinary achievement while participating in aerial flight. Al was the recipient of 5 Distinguished Flying Crosses, 6 Air Medals, and the Purple Heart for his combat missions flown in Southeast Asia. On August 13, 1970, while flying on a training mission to Yuban, Thailand, 2 weeks before Al was to have completed his combat tour and returned to Beverly and their young daughter, his CH-3 was hit by insurgent enemy ground fire that knocked out both engines. The helicopter rapidly descended while on fire and crashed. Al and the other crew members were killed instantly upon contact with the ground. At the Air Force Academy, each graduating class holds reunions every 5 to 10 years. Many activities are held during those get-togethers, including a memorial service in the Academy Chapel to remember and honor those classmates who are no longer with us. The following call and response ritual is held at each service. A classmate reads out the names of our deceased class members, and after each name is read, a volunteer classmate rises from a church pew and provides a standard response that can be held by everyone. During the class of 66's 50th annual reunion, as Al's name was read, I stood at attention, and in the clearest voice I could manage, responded, "Absent, sir."
Sandy Lynch was an expert Army nurse, a genteel Southern lady, and my friend. Here's her Vietnam story. Born in Tifton, Georgia, she had blonde hair, blue eyes, and a lilt to her speech that worldwide assignments could never erase. Soon after graduating from nursing school in Florida, Sandy joined the Army Nurse Corps to care for soldiers. By the way, I don't know if you're aware of it, but no woman nurse has ever had to be drafted. We've always volunteered. After completing the officer basic course, Sandy was assigned to the neurosurgical ward of a combat support hospital in Vietnam. Like all nurses there, Sandy worked 12-hour shifts, 6 or 7 days a week, and more when casualties were heavy, very much like nurses work now in wartime. The triage system was used in Vietnam as a way of rapidly classifying patients based on the type and severity of their injuries and the probability of their survival. It was to provide the best services to the greatest number of people. Those classified as immediate could be helped by fast intervention, usually airway or circulation support along with surgery. Some classified as delayed could wait for care, and others required only minor help. Sandy worked on the neurosurgery pre-op and post-op wards. She was stabilizing soldiers who had head, neck, and spinal cord injuries and then cared for them during their recovery. The average age of her patients was 18 to 20 years old. Young men who had been in the bush for weeks or months. They came to the hospital dirty, bloody, afraid, and often disoriented. When patients arrived, they were triaged, and as the nurses started their care, they reassured them by saying, "You're in an American hospital, I'm an Army nurse, and I'll take good care of you." This was Sandy's mantra, day in and day out. Sandy, though, had a special concern for soldiers who were in the 4th triage category, those who are classified as expectant, whose survival was highly unlikely. These soldiers had severe head, neck, or spinal cord injuries, or no peripheral pulses. They were given comfort measures until they died. Sandy often told me of holding the hands of these young men, sometimes for hours, and often after her shift was over, to make sure they didn't die alone. Some, though they were badly injured and paralyzed, were still able to talk to the nurses. The nurses listened to their stories of home and family so that they could write home and let their loved ones know that their deaths were peaceful and somebody had been with them who cared about them. Other soldiers did not seem aware of their surroundings, but Sandy sat with them too. making sure that the last thing they felt was a human touch. It was heartbreaking work, but Sandy felt that it was what she was called to do. At the end of her year in Vietnam, Sandy married one of the docs, one of the medics, who had often brought soldiers to her hospital. They went back to Georgia to raise a family, and things went well for a while, but as so often happens in a two-veteran marriage, their strains were too great, and they parted ways. After their marriage ended, Sandy returned to active duty, where we served together at Fort Bragg, what's now known as Fort Liberty. That's where we got to be friends, and we promised to look out for each other if we ever needed help in the future. Through a strange promotion system, I was promoted ahead of Sandy, so I became her boss, although I was never her superior. And if you've ever been deployed, you know when you come back, you don't suffer fools lightly, and Sandy was the same. She did not take to silly rules, and she didn't mind telling people so. She loved caring for soldiers, though, and caring for their families. She worked in obstetrics, which you would think would be a happy place, but she reserved her special care for the people who needed her the most, the helpless and the dying on the obstetrics ward. She spent the rest of her professional life taking care of premature newborns, especially those with severe anomalies, as well as with taking care of parents whose babies had died. She taught other doctors and nurses and made sure that the patients received all the care they needed, even when there were seemingly ridiculous rules. Sandy had been looking forward to retiring, but in the autumn of 2001, she called on me to honor our pact. She had been diagnosed with an aggressive type of brain tumor, possibly linked to exposure to toxins in Vietnam, maybe on the uniforms of the soldiers that she had cared for. Because of the 9/11 attacks, I couldn't take leave from Walter Reed, and I was only able to catch a military hop to get to Fort Benning, which is now Fort Moore in Georgia, to say my final goodbye. Sandy's pretty blonde hair was shaved off one side of her head. She didn't wake up. She was very much like those young men she had taken care of so many years before. Sandy died in September 2001. She was an extraordinary Army nurse, a gentle lady, and she was my good friend. I'm honored to have served with her. And I thank you for joining me in honoring Sandy and other nurse veterans of Vietnam, including my friend Monica Blankenship, who's here today. Thanks.
What an honor for me to be here. I'm David Robinson, in Vietnam, 1970-71, Infantry, Marcal Division, Charlie Company, 5th Battalion, 46th Infantry. What a blessing just to be here. I've had a lot of health problems, and the VA has been great. And I thank the Lord for this opportunity and this honor to be here. A piece entitled Across the Sea. What a journey for me to cross the sea, to have known the things that I had to see. First was a man they called a VC, and he was trying to kill me. Oh, the training they gave as best they could, but it was much different across the sea. Things I'd never seen, names I'd never heard nor could say. Long Binh, Da Nang, Cam Bay, Chu Lai, and many more. Frag, M79, M60, Claymores, sea rations, gunships, choppers, far base, NVA. This was so different across the sea, especially for a country boy like me. Names of things like dust off, evacuation hospital, amputation, KIA, medevac, how those names scared me, because I knew there would be names of comrades, friends, buddies, and yes, brothers I would never see again. How sad we didn't have time to weep or mourn. We had to stay alert and on guard and pray there would be no more. There came the day I could go back over the sea. What a welcome sight this was going to be. Back to a land I call home. They would be so glad to see me. But when we landed on shore, there were people who acted like they don't like me anymore. I heard names I'd never heard before. Warmonger, baby killer, and more. I thought, no, I'm back across the sea. These things should be familiar to me. Then I thought, I'll forget it all. So I hid the reminders, the pictures, the uniform, the Ho Chi Minh sandals, and all the rest. I'll not talk of all I've been through, so it will go away. But the memories and dreams, they stayed, and I started feeling I'm the only one this way. In 30 years or so, I heard about a reunion. First, I thought, I don't want to go, but I decided I would. So glad I did. It was mind-boggling and too hard to explain. All these brothers, and we all felt the same. How could I ever forget brothers like these? To meet their families, what a joy. And remember, we met when we were just boys. To talk of the good times we had, and very seldom speak of the bad. I think, what would my life be if I'd never had to cross the sea? But if I had not, then I would never have met brothers like these.
Can we have another hand for the sharing of those powerful stories? As you see, we are videotaping the ceremony, and we are going to upload it to the City of Asheville YouTube channel at 3 o'clock. So that's youtube.com/City of Asheville, and at 3 o'clock you can watch the ceremony or let other folks know about the ceremony. Okay, next we'll have presentation of memorial wreaths. We'll invite up Ted Minnick, who represents the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 124, and Gold Star family member David Melton, his brother of a KIA in Vietnam, Wesley Melton, Vietnam, KIA 1970, and the City of Asheville, represented by the Asheville Police Department, Sergeant Brian Hogan. And any Gold Star family member who would like to come up with David, we'd appreciate that. Can we have the presentation of the memorial wreaths, please? Okay, following, we'll have the 21 gun salute from the American Legion Post, and followed by taps, American Legion Post. Could you please rise? would like to thank those who come out today, those participants. Be safe. Take care of yourselves. Thank you.